Good morning, I'm Tim Hanstad. I'm President and CEO of the Rural Development Institute based in Seattle, Washington. 3 billion people around the world survive on less than $2 per day. And providing meaningful opportunities for these poor to improve their condition is a central challenge facing our planet. 2/3 of these poorest live in rural areas where land is the most important source of income, of nutrition, of wealth, power, and status. And not surprisingly, landlessness and weak property rights are accurate predictors of poverty. How can these approximately 2 billion rural poor improve their conditions and join the middle class? History and a wealth of studies will show that access to land and secure property rights are a central part of the answer. My organization, RDI, works with developing country governments to help them implement and design land law and policy frameworks that provide opportunity, that advance economic growth, and that promote social justice. RDI has worked in over 45 countries on reforms that have helped provide secure land rights to 100 million poor people. Now, RDI's services are designed for governments. Recently, though, I've become convinced that companies could benefit from similar services. A recent and alarming trend of large-scale commercial acquisition of farmland in developing countries shows that companies could really benefit from these services. Services from an honest broker that would help them make those land acquisitions a win-win solution for not only the investors, but also for the country and for the rural poor who are directly affected. You see, in recent years, national and multinational companies have been substantially increasing their purchase of farmland in developing countries. And they're doing this as a response to rising food and energy prices, to exploit natural resources, to develop the land for industrial or residential purposes. And this trend has been described as a new form of colonialism or exploitation of the poor. And the poor are often hurt by these acquisitions. They lose their land. It increases poverty. However, it doesn't need to be that way. These investments can be a win-win solution if the objectives of the investors and the country are reconciled with the land rights of the poor people directly affected. This is rarely done, but sorely needed. Why isn't it done? Governments are anxious to get the investments, obviously, but they are typically unaware of or not sufficiently concerned about the plight of the rural poor who are directly affected. Public protests have stalled projects, have even destabilized governments, as recent experiences in India and Africa illustrate. Companies must proactively mitigate the risks and fulfill their social responsibilities. But how? I would assert that by engaging qualified nonprofits, civil society organizations such as RDI, that have the knowledge, the skills, the credibility, and the capacity to work together with the various stakeholders, the investing companies, the governments, the poor people who rely on the land being taken. You can work with them to design and implement land-based investments that will reconcile the various objectives. So I would assert that companies should proactively look for social enterprises, for nonprofit organizations that can help them. It'll be a win-win solution for the rural poor on the ground, and it'll help mitigate the risks of the companies. You see, a social problem exists. Organizations that have the knowledge, the capacity, and the credibility to play this honest broker role exists. And given companies' needs to manage risks and to fulfill their corporate social responsibility, it seems that they should be willing to pay for such a service. So the questions I have for you in the audience, for you company representatives, would you consider paying a nonprofit organization to undertake such a service, and under what conditions? And for those social entrepreneurs out there, what obstacles do you see in developing such a social enterprise or a line of service? Thank you very much.